guys, this is Jay coming to you from 21st Century Reviews, bringing you a review of Star Trek, the official Starships collection by Eagle Moss, issue number 8, USS Excelsior, registration number NX-2000, later known as NCC-2000. An Excelsior-class starship that we first got to view in Star Trek III, The Search for Spock. Launched in the year 2285 under Captain Styles, later captained by Hikaru Sulu himself, former helmsman of the Enterprise. We saw many, many appearances of this ship throughout the Star Trek The Next Generation series, notably the USS Hood, which used to be the ship that Commander Riker frequented as the executive officer of before taking his post aboard the Enterprise. And then also the USS Crazy Horse, which was referenced a number of times. I do believe Admiral Nechayev actually was the commanding officer of said ship, or at least she used it frequently whenever she would go out on actual missions. Now, what we're actually going to talk about today is the fact that this ship was one of my favorites. I always enjoyed it. Always got a kick out of it in Star Trek III when Scotty sabotaged it. Always really, really enjoyed just the design aspects to it because, I mean, you know, even though the Enterprise, the Constitution class refit was a really cool refitted design and was aerodynamic looking and looked sleek and kind of like the Corvette of starships. Well, this, to me, this kind of looked like the Lamborghini because it was even smoother, it was even sleeker. It was actually, according to the way they talked about it, it was designed to go faster than the Enterprise. It was designed to actually break speed records. This ship was commissioned to be the prototype to be testing the experimental trans-warp drive program. So, needless to say, I was more than excited to see this ship coming from Eagle Moss and everything, and I have to say, this was the first, not only, but first issue that gave me colossal disappointment. So, without further ado, let's talk about the pros. Pros of this ship are few and far between, but to be fair, the basic design of it does follow the basic design that you see it in the design specifications and schematics of the ship. It definitely is recognizable. You don't have any difficulty actually being able to know that it's the Excelsior, especially if you're a fan. I will say that some of the attention to details and decaling is good, but to be fair, I'm not giving that the best grade either. The use of clear plastic application, especially on these warp nacelles right here, actually is the one thing I actually adored about it. They made it a point to pay very, and I do mean very close attention to not only the clear plastic applications along the top of each nacelle, but along the sides of it too. So you actually got a really good representation of what those warp engines are supposed to look like. So to be fair, that's actually one of its better qualities. And when I say one of them, I probably mean the only one. So, I mean, that actually pretty much concludes my pros list in regards to this actual model. And to be honest, now we're going to get to some of the actual details of the cons of this particular model. And so, let me kind of wedge this up a little bit so that you can kind of see a little bit better of what I'm talking about. You're probably looking at it and going, man, he's got that thing placed on the stand really stupid because it looks crooked. There's a reason it looks crooked, and that brings us to the first on the cons list. Now, I want to make it a point to say, I'm not saying Eagle Moss produced a bad product. In fact, I wouldn't say that at all, because to be honest, I actually really like this series. But I feel like this is a model where they really, and I mean really, dropped the ball. Mine, at least, the saucer section is crooked. It's literally on there crooked. I never actually noticed it until I really started paying attention to these things after I started, trying to figure out if I wanted to review them or not. And then I actually took the time and took a look. And then I realized, wow, everything. I took a look with like a laser dot pointer and then kind of looked at it with like a tape measure and kind of did some actual like scans of it and everything, and wow, I mean, there is literally a 3-degree variation turn of where it's supposed to be sitting. I mean, it looks like it literally got smacked onto the engineering hull section, everything, without really caring at the fact that the symmetry was completely wrong. I'm going to point it out and say the gap that's in between the impulse engines should line directly up with this line that runs right down the middle of the hull. It doesn't. It looks sort of like it does in the video, but when you actually look directly on it and everything, there's a noticeable deviation on it. And then whenever you look at the underside of the hull, you really see it. Now, this goes to some of the other things that I normally do in my evaluation of decaling, painting, and Aztecing. But to be fair, it's mainly on the list just because it's its main cons. Now, like I said, they made a huge point to make these warp engines look the way they're supposed to. Great job. Then you decide to take a dab of red paint and paint the impulse engines. Why? You have red plastic, clearly. The model right before it, the Klingon battlecruiser, had red plastic application on it for emphasizing its engines. You can do the same thing. It's not that hard. Big disappointment there. Now, to bring us back to the front of the ship, and I'm going to kind of get creative here with how I do this. We're going to spin it back around, and we're going to kind of... And the reason I'm doing this, in case you're wondering, is because the autofocus on this camera is not the best. Now, take a real close look at that deflector housing. Now, when you see this deflector in the movies, it's all lit up blue, it's really, really prominent, and it's very, very noticeable. The one thing that they really dropped the ball on with this is that there's a little tiny blue plastic chip in there that is the deflector. Unless you shine a light on it, you can't actually tell that it's blue. That's like a huge blunder right off the jump. There's no attention to it made whatsoever. There's nothing that draws you to it. You know, I mean, granted, if you look at, say, like my Diamond Select ships, and you look at them when they're not lit up, you might not be able to tell that they light up blue. But if you shine a light into them, you can. In this instance, you could shine a light in there all you want. Unless you're down there with a magnifying glass, you can't actually tell. Now, that to me, I mean, it's lazy. It's just lazy. I mean, all you really had to do was just mold a plastic blue cap and put it in there. And it would have been fine. It would have been very fine. And I mean, I hate to say it, because I'm not a fan of paint where plastic should be, but I mean, if you'd been able to even paint it in there more effective, I would have been happier with that. But wow, I mean, just a colossal waste of time. So I'm going to see if I can kind of show you what I mean by that deviation. I mean, I don't know if you can really see it, but I mean, I can see it, but I've also been looking at it. But it's clearly not where it's supposed to be, and it's just very frustrating. Now, I'm going to spin it back around to where it was back here, and then kind of back it up just a hair. Okay, now for another complaint. Along the aft section of the dorsal area of the engineering hull, on this gray panels area right here, there should be distinctive lines running horizontally across the axis that kind of show at least a measure of Aztec to them. They're completely absent. It's a minor detail, but again, as someone who's built these models, who's actually looked at them and everything, it's a major thing that you notice. It's just not there. I'll kind of tip it again that way so you can kind of get a feel for it and everything. But then the one, like, gigantic, colossal, like, what the heck were you guys thinking moment for me is right in the center of the frame, where the point of the end of the aft section of the secondary engineering hull is. It's supposed to be a slotted black door that extends completely from one side of the hull to the other. It's black, It has vertical lines running down it. Guess what? That's a shuttle bay. And even though we never see a shuttle get launched from the Excelsior or any of its variants in any of the shows, we know that's what it is, because that's a standard of design of the time frame of these style of ships. They have a shuttle launch section that's on the back of the ship. It's just how it is. All of them have one. Yet mysteriously they managed to just conveniently forget that. That's an unforgivable error. I mean, come on. I was actually thinking about painting one on there. I was like, you know what? No, I'm not going to do it, because why? Why would I want to finish somebody else's work? So, to be fair, I'm going to say decals. They made it a point to add a lot of decals, but unfortunately they did one really stupid thing with this. I'm going to kind of aim this forward a little bit to try and see if I can show you what I'm talking about here. You see those red lines around the top here? Those aren't supposed to be there. If you actually look at the original design of the Excelsior, it didn't really have a lot of details to it and everything, because it was a prototype. Those same lines appear on the ventral section of the saucer as well, in the same pattern. We do see those on an Excelsior class model at a later point. That ship is called the Enterprise B. When you actually compare the two, this ship is actually supposed to have a very dark gray tone to it. Kind of that Navy ship gray I've talked about in other ones. Like the Constitution class refit, that paint job would have actually fit this ship, because it's supposed to be gray like that. This ship is not supposed to be white. It's supposed to be gray. So to be fair, talk about completely dropping the ball, because you made it look like something that it's not even supposed to look like. So paint, it gets a 1 out of 5. Aztecing, they made it a huge point to pay attention to the Aztecing on the saucer section, which, to be honest, wasn't a whole lot of it on the original model. It was very smooth in general. It didn't have a lot of those details to it and everything. So, Aztecing, 1 out of 5, because you put it in spots that it's not supposed to be on, and then you conveniently forget to put it in the spots that it is noticeable on. I'm going to be fair and give it a 3 out of 5 on decal placement, because at least they tried, but the decals don't belong to this model. They belong to the variant model. So to be fair, I'm going to have to grade this one at a 1 out of 5. I hate to do it, but this entire model, huge disappointment, everything. I can say that the models that have come after it and everything, I definitely have some better ones out of it and everything, but wow, just a huge, huge disappointment with this. I would say that honestly, if the saucer was straight and it was on there correctly and everything, that would actually probably drive it up to a 2 or a 3 out of 5. Simply because that one factor is a huge flub, and I really don't like that. So, like I said, 1 out of 5, I'm going to have to give it. So, feel free to leave questions, comments, and concerns below. We're going to be reviewing issue number 9, the USS Defiant. Hugely popular ship. I'm really looking forward to doing that review. So, don't forget to click the like, click the subscribe button. Again, still trying to get subscribers. I'm still sitting at a whopping 6, which is basically laughable. If I can't start driving this a little bit faster and everything and trying to actually get some actual viewers and everything, I'm probably not going to have much choice but to just quit doing this, because, it's fun, but it's kind of a waste of time if no one's actually paying any attention to it. So, without further ado, as usual, we're working on it.
1 minute to auto-destruct.
Job done.